Hi there, my name is Charlotte Kibe, and you're watching yet another episode of When Things Change, a conversation on conscious parenting. And today we're tackling separation anxiety, and I have a friend of mine who will be joining me for the conversation because this is a topic that she knows quite a lot about from having gone through it with her family. Her name is Dr. Diana Wambua. She's an old friend of mine from high school. I have got to throw that in there. So, karibu sana.
Thank you so much for having me, Charlotte. I appreciate.
Right. Yes. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. As she said, my name is Diana. I am a mother, a wife, and a career woman. My background is nursing. I trained as a nurse. Currently, I'm a nurse educator. I teach at one of the public universities in Kenya. So I am married and we have 3 children, 3 daughters. One is 14, 12, and 6-year-old. So my journey dates back to 2018.
Right.
When the girls were 2, 6, and 8.
Right.
So I got this government scholarship offer. But let's go back to when I did the application process. So when I began the application process, my intuition was so strong and I felt like this was it.
Right.
So right then I began preparing the children. So I began having conversations and telling the children, in the event I get this scholarship, I'd be gone. Mommy would be away for a while. So you'll
Right.
not see mommy. So there are so many questions that the children had. Why, mommy? What is PhD? Why must you go away? You know, such questions. And I became very intentional on how I handle these questions. So I kept on repeating because some questions popped up every time. So I kept on repeating the conversations and letting the children know that it is possible for me to study in Kenya, but this time I had been awarded by the government of Kenya to go and study abroad to become a better person.
Right.
Yeah, so the children somehow understood it, but you know, you can never be ready. You know, so we started working the journey. So I first began with my partner, and then my partner was very supportive. So now we did it together with the children. So when it comes to separation anxiety, you have to handle it as a family, you know, or
Right.
as a unit, you know, depending, because you have different types of families. But whoever your partner is, you work together and handle it together.
Right.
Because there is one thing, you can never be ready, you know, but you have to acknowledge the fact that things are going to change. Things are not going to be the same. So at this point in time, mommy will be away. I was a sole parent that was living with the children because my spouse was working in another town.
Right.
So things had to change. I was dropping the kids to school. So something had to change. They had to go by the bus. And then because I was leaving and going away, and as parents, you know, you don't want to be very far away and you don't know who is picking and dropping your children.
Right.
So we thought it's good enough for us to put the children in boarding school.
Oh,
The first 2
wow.
children.
That's such a huge change, not just having your mom leave the country, but even your routine has changed. You've been thrust into a whole new world. And how did they take it?
Initially, they were very excited because they were like, oh, we're going to go to school. And they were in this kind of school that is like home away from home, you know. So they were very excited and they were looking forward. And we, first of all, started with the first term, telling them about it and letting them know that next term, we shall be joining the boarding school just to prepare them.
Right.
So when the time came, they were ready for the boarding school. So we dropped them in school. It was not easy for me, and neither was it for their dad. Because now you had to call in school. I was away, so I had to rely on a teacher to use their WhatsApp to talk to the children.
Right. Right.
And then don't forget the timings are different. So I really had to be in that space where I had to calculate, you know, I had to be very deliberate. So I talked to the children and it got to a time where we had to now change everything because the boarding school was not working.
And what does it not having worked look like?
It looks like this. Having to call the school and the child doesn't want to talk to you.
Because
she is just not sure of where she is. You know, when it comes to separation anxiety, there is that issue of the child being socially isolated, the child being very angry, very bitter, but they don't know how to express it.
Right. Maybe even feelings of neglect.
Absolutely.
Like, why isn't my mom here?
Absolutely. And you see, the kind of school they were in is where they were being having like weekly boarding. So you can come pick your children on Friday and bring them back the next Friday. But you see, at this point, we are now working with one parent. So it is not possible to, like, you know, when you're two parents, you can alternate. This weekend you pick the children, the next weekend I pick the children, and you know, we work it. But my husband was on his own, and he was working almost more than 500 kilometers away from the school. So it was not practical for him to be in the school every weekend. And there's no way like you could make up for this absence. So it really was quite something, because my husband got to a point and he was like, no, my children cannot be suffering at this point, and I'm in this country. So, because one day he called the daughter, our second born daughter, and she was just crying. And at this point, she also had lost so much weight. You know, at home, you're always nibbling here and there, you know, you're comfortable. So suddenly there is eating in, you know, in a group, you know, the whole team thing, you know, and she was only 6, and we totally understand everything. So we decided that we needed to relocate.
And that's your husband having to leave where he's situated to move closer to the kids?
The other way around. So we decided to take the kids close to where he was, close to his workstation. And actually his workstation would not work. So we needed to go to a city close to his workstation. And the nearest city was Mombasa city. So here we are. We were living in the slopes of Mount Kenya in Nyeri. Now we have to leave to the coastal side of the country. Initially, when my husband suggested this, I don't know, you know, I was like, I didn't see it coming. And what crossed my mind was like, oh my God, the culture shock, going to Mombasa, you know, like that whole change. But I thank God, because throughout the scholarship, I had developed this, when I started, I developed a sense of letting things be. You know, like the serenity prayer, you're telling God to help you, you know, what you cannot control, to accept it. So I got to the point where there's some things I can't control. And I told my husband, you're the one on the ground. If that is what you consider would work, I'm good with it.
Go for it.
Let's go for it. So when are we moving? I remember this conversation was in June of 2019. June of 2019. So he told me, I would wish we can move immediately so that the next term, the children can begin in the next school. So I just told him 2 things. One, I wouldn't want you to move to a new house in my absence. Because I would be a total stranger. It feels something, yet being the mother of the house. Already that bit of being present has already been taken away from me by the fact that I'm out of the country. Then now, I come to a whole new house. You know, those are 2, so I really needed to be part of it.
A really major change that involves you, but is happening in your absence. I get how unsettling that can be for a woman.
And being the kind of person I am, I really love my things in a certain way, order. So I just requested, the first thing was like, I need to be the person to be present in the moving. The second thing is, my flight was on the 4th of July, 2019. I just requested him, please, let us move on the 6th of July. Allow me arrive on the 4th, rest on the 5th, and then on the 6th of July, let's move to Mombasa. And that's exactly what we did. So we moved to Mombasa. All this while, I haven't mentioned, my children are living with a nanny. I have a very good nanny. She is God sent. Up until now, I'm still living with her. So she has taken care of us for more than 7 years. So the small 2-year-old girl is living with the nanny while I am away and my husband is away. So we've now moved the nanny, the child, my husband and I, 4 of us. Went with everything to Mombasa, then came back to Nyeri later on and talked to the children and told them we are moving to Mombasa. And the girls were very happy. You know, Mombasa is associated with the holiday, the beaches, you know, the swimming, and they love swimming. So it was not such a big deal. Although they were sad that they were going to leave their friends, but they were happy that they would see their father every now and then. You know, now that they were not able to see me, at least daddy was there. So we moved. And up until now, it has been, I would say it has been a bliss. You know, it has been a journey, but it has been a journey of learning and learning, being intentional, you know, deliberate, you know, just being that parent that, you know, you don't beat yourself so much. You allow yourself, because at times I would break down, you know, when I remember, especially during the COVID period, because I was away for 8 months. But thank God for technology. So we could do Zoom calls, Skype calls, WhatsApp calls, FaceTime. Like we utilized all forms of the video platforms, you know, and we would talk. I remember there are days we would even have the Zoom call going on the whole day, or the Skype going on the whole day. We're not even conversing, but they can hear my movements in the house, and I can hear their movements and their conversations in the house. And we even scheduled some sessions with the girls, because now the girls were growing, you know, and now they are blossoming into women. So we needed to have some conversations. So we utilized the platform to talk about those. So coming back to the separation anxiety conversation, I believe this is a conversation that needs to be there.
It most certainly
needs to be there, because, you know, we assume so much, especially when it comes to the children. You know, we assume that they don't know what is happening, they don't understand anything, and we make the decisions for them, but we need to involve them. So let us be able to have this conversation, inform them well in advance, you know, let them know of the imminent changes that are coming, and then always help them, you know, acknowledge that it is true, this is happening, and we have to face it. You know, we shall no longer have the birthdays, you know. But I thank God, because I was able to get vendors to get cakes for us, flowers here and there. Thank God for Glovo. You know, I could order food from abroad. I could order KFC. You know, I would order shopping from Carrefour and Naivas and everywhere, and the food gets delivered at home. You know, so somehow, even in my absence, my presence was there, you know. But you have to be very intentional, you know. Even waking up early, we were 2 hours behind. I would wake up at 4 a.m. and call the children and talk to them in the morning, to even the extent of even asking them, you know, like, Mommy, you have not buttoned your shirt, you know, you have not washed your face. I can see something on your face. Like, that is how we related, you know, like, and today you don't look happy, Natasha. What is it, you know? Like, we had those conversations, and I'm appreciative of you being very deliberate and very intentional, because, you know, you just fall into the set and that space, and things roll out, you know. So you don't really struggle, because you have allowed yourself to go through the motions, to go through that phase, you know, as well as also acknowledge some things that you can't change, you know.
So that just sounds like a whole lot of change in such a short span of time. And with your oldest having been 8 years at the time, how do you make an 8-year-old mind reconcile itself with the fact that Mommy being away is what's best for the family? How, and I'm just trying to go back to, like, the conversations leading up to you boarding the plane and, you know, traveling all the way to Europe. How do you help her understand that this is what's best for us?
You know, I'll talk about my experience and how I handled it. Because I believe most of these experiences, yes, we have the theory, but we have the practical. And you see, your theory, your practical may not work for me. So I would say, in my situation, I would say, first of all, it comes from within. I first of all have to be convinced that I really want to go for this scholarship, because don't forget, I'm still the same mother who needs to go to a foreign land and get accustomed to the foreign land and still meet her school objectives, you know, still have to do all those things. So in this case, as a career woman, you know, there's maybe that just one maneuver you need to do to be able to hit these professional goals, you know. So this is it. So this was it for me. I had got to a point where I really needed to have this PhD done to propel me to the next level.
Right.
So I was set in terms of me. And my immediate partner, my husband, was so supportive of me. So that already gave me enough ground to handle the children.
Right.
So how I handled my 8-year-old, at that point, my 8-year-old didn't know anything. So just conversations, simple conversations like, Mommy is going to leave Kenya and go very far away. And she's going to school. You see, you're going to school yourself. School does not end.
Right.
Now, first of all, you have to instill that information to them. Let them understand that education is not ending. And you have to better yourself as a person, as an individual. So when you begin at that level, the child will also get to understand, I'm also going to school, yes. I'll also get to a level where I want to advance. And you see, when you're doing it as a mother, you're also setting a bar high for them. You're also setting a precedent.
True.
So I believe that by acting and doing and being very intentional was one of the things that brought the conversation to the child and really put some meaning in it. And because you're having this even during dinner, like we are seated 6 of us, and we just have this conversation and freely speak to the extent that I remember my nanny even saying, she calls me Mama Mwende after our last child. Like, Mama Mwende, you go to school. Don't think about the children. I will take care of them.
Right.
Just go, do what you need to do, and then come back.
Right.
So you see these conversations coming from another person of reassurance to me, and the children are there. You see, it becomes like a family thing. You're not in this alone.
True.
And also just letting them and drilling it into them that there's change coming. But you see, also do it in small doses.
Right.
But you start it from a distance. So for us, we can say we had almost like 6 months. Look, from January up to around August, because I traveled on the 30th of August in 2018. So you can see there was a period that we had of talking and conversing and trying to just unpack everything and what it looks like, going to the airport. Because I remember only Natasha cried at the airport after I left. Now, these are the stories I was being told later on.
Right.
I also cried because I felt, you feel like a sharp pain, like you have left your children, and the last one is 2-year-old. She can't live on her own,
Right.
but she has to be taken care of, and you're not there anymore.
And just listening to you, there's this underlying theme that seems to be recurring in your life. We're friends. I've known you for years. For a really long time, I kept up with you on social media. There's something about your partner and how supportive he's been of you, and just how instrumental his support has been in you pursuing your dreams. And I want you to tell us a little bit more about that, like what just that kind of unity where parents sit together, deliberate, make decisions, and then they involve their children in decisions they've already made, and just how much easier that makes it for the kids to navigate even through difficult situations.
I will respond to that in the form of friendship. It has to begin from somewhere.
Right.
So I'm going to attribute our togetherness and our working together from the foundations, how we began our friendship. We met in campus. So we have worked together since campus, and we continued the friendship. So we got to know each other beyond other physical or heart things, So we got to know each other and get to really relate.
Right.
So right from the word go, we were friends. So we were used to talking and opening up and sharing very deep things and sharing our plans and everything. And that is where it all began. Because we don't have secrets, we don't keep things from each other. So that way, the person, my husband, feels my pain and I feel his pain. So even when it comes to things like this, he was like, Diana, because he calls me D. So my D, I love you so much. And because I know you really love your books, and like this career move is really big for you, what I will do, I will allow you to go and study. That is my expression of love to you. Yeah. So don't worry about the kids. I will take care of the kids. He even commented and said, I have not had time to bond with these children because he's always worked away. So he was like, this is my opportunity to get close to my daughters and get to know everything about them. And believe you me, 4 years later, because I just concluded and came back, they are best of friends, you know. And I'm so happy when I see them conversing, you know, communicating. And it is evident even in our last born girl. She just did her KCPE and she passed very well. And we can say this was because of the father's coaching. You know, the father used to sit down with her, you know, study with her, give her tuition and everything. And here we are. No, we are going to a very good high school. She's very happy. Everybody is happy. And you see, when you have that, a happy mother is a happy home. You see? So it just comes from that foundation. The foundation you are with and how you come up with your things is really important, because now it is now impacts the children.
Right. And the reason why I would bring that up is because I want people to understand that it takes healthy adults to raise healthy children. The state you're in as a mother, then as a couple, and how you maneuver, you know, the challenges in life, how you maneuver change ends up translating into the lives of your children. And at this point, we're going to take a break, and we'll continue with this conversation in a little while. So you guys, thanks for watching. Stay with us for part 2 of this conversation.